Good afternoon. Good morning, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Whatever it took for you to be here today, thank you for being here to explore human flourishing with myself and Scott Barry Kaufman. And a special welcome to our FLORIS members. I'm Rosie von Lila. I study and write about human flourishing, and I use arts and technologies to bring people together around human flourishing and what academic research teaches us about the subject. I founded FLORIS, which is the adventure club for people who are into flourishing. And I co-authored the Practical Flourishing Assessment. I'm a professional creative. And fun fact, I used to work for Burning Man headquarters before I moved to New York and started working in private equity, which is what everyone does, isn't it? Today, we are with the delightful Dr. Scott Barry Kaufman. Dr. Kaufman is a cognitive scientist and humanistic psychologist. He's one of the world's foremost experts on human potential and creativity. Stephen Kotler, the best-selling author, has called Scott the Maslow of our times. Dr. Scott has written 11 books on the subjects of human potential, including Rise Above, which is about overcoming victimhood to live a flourishing life. And he also wrote the best-selling Transcend, the new science of self-actualization. Dr. Scott is a professor at Columbia University, and he started the world's first psychology podcast. Dr. Scott is a professional magic maker, and fun fact, he is a literal magician. So welcome, everyone. I'm so happy to see all of your faces. It is great to see you. And today, this is the Ask Me Anything About Human Flourishing. And there is, as you know, a lot happening in the world right now. And today's format for this Ask Us Anything is all human flourishing related questions are welcome. The best way to submit your question is to direct message me. I'll be monitoring only my DM for questions. I won't be monitoring the main chat. But if you happen to accidentally put it into the main group chat, don't worry. We have a team who's here today, and they will do their best to reroute your question into my DM so that I see it.
Yes, and I will be monitoring the main chat for just compliments about us.
Fabulous. Thank you, Scott. Thank you.
Whatever you want to say, please say it, but put the questions as Rosie instructed. But everything else, please be interactive. I love reading your comments.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Scott. Our support team today are Haley, Dave, and Grace. And I want to say thank you to you three for being here today and giving service to flourishing. And with that, we will get going. We're going to dive right in. I have two questions right off the top. One is from me, another is from a FLORIS member, and then it's open. Feel free to DM me with your questions. So, Scott, it's really good to see you.
I'm gonna see you
This is
too.
not my first question, but really happy you're here. How are you today?
I'm good. I am really happy to be doing this with you. It's such an honor.
It's a delight. I always love collaborating with you.
Totes.
So, okay, so here's my question for you. So this question is regarding all the stuff that's going on in the world, and a lot of us are finding ourselves quite dysregulated and affected by what's happening in the world. So, um, regarding being able to change one's mind over time or change one's personality traits over time, what I'd love to know is what do we know about being able to change from being more towards highly neurotic, so stressed and scared and worried, more towards emotionally stable? And how do you define neuroticism versus emotional stability?
Yeah, I really like those questions. Rosie is really wonderful at practical takeaways and things like that, and I'm really good at being nerdy. So I'm not going to try to be anyone else other than I am today, and I hope this will be valuable information for you all, and then Rosie can enhance it with all of her great flourishes. You see what I did there? Okay. Um, the way I view the situation from a bird's eye view is that dysregulation is fundamentally an issue of entropy. And that's what I write about in my book, Transcend. Um, so entropy is constantly increasing, and that doesn't just, it's not just a thermodynamic principle in physics. It's also has been applied to humans. So disorder is the natural state of increasing it. You can either accept it or you can try to fight it at every turn and refuse to surrender to that fact of human existence and be constantly stressed and overwhelmed. People who score high in the trait neuroticism research shows, and I can load you up with papers, that they are particularly sensitive to entropy. They're particularly resistant to entropy. Um, and they would actually prefer an immediate shock or pain to knowing that there could be shock or pain sometime in the future. They want to just get it over with, even if it may never come. So that is my nerdy preface to that question, Rosie. And now, let me talk a little about that trait neuroticism, because it is fundamentally, that's what it's fundamentally about. So you may have someone else give a more glib definition of neuroticism, but it really is your inability to deal with uncertainty, and that creates so much anxiety. So, a really important intervention that has been studied to help, and by the way, there is a lot of hope here, because out of all the personality traits that researchers have tried to move the needle on in terms of personality interventions, neuroticism shows the largest changes and the quickest changes. So that's actually some good news. If you're asking me, Scott, what's the one that shows the least amount of changes out of them all? That's a good question. And just Jeopardy trivia, it's openness to experience. So people who are particularly closed-minded, it's not as easy to get them. Okay, so with that out of the way, we're talking about emotional regulation and thoughts, and neuroticism does seem to show the strongest effect. If someone could put in the chat window as a resource an Atlantic article I wrote called "Can We Change Our Personality?" or something like that. This will be a summary of what I'm talking about right now, so you don't have to take like extensive notes. How to change your personality. Okay, there it is. Um, yeah, and so there are a lot of really tried and true techniques for reducing neuroticism, or alternatively, as the second part of Rose's question was about, which is about, emotional stability. And they're both one different ends of the pole. If you'd like to increase your emotional stability, there are various things to take into account, and the big one, and I could teach a whole course in this, so I won't keep talking, but the big one is to really accept the basic truths of how emotions work. And there are three basic truths. I'll be really quick. One, all emotions are transient. So whatever you're feeling in this moment, I did an exercise with my students yesterday in my Science of Living Well seminar. I'm teaching a smaller seminar version of it this month, and I had everyone stand up, and we got embodiment, and we worked on getting into our body, and then we also worked on the fact that you can realize that in this moment, by paying attention to your breath, you can just be like, I am okay. And you're not required to live in the past or the present at every second. You're not required. A lot of people who are neurotic, that never dawns on them. That never dawns on them that they don't have to worry about it. They're worrying 24/7. They're on call. They're on call 24/7, people who score high in neuroticism. So that's one memo I want to give to the neurotic people out there like myself. And I say that with all love. Absolutely, you don't have to be on call 24/7. You're allowed to actually just at the very least return to your breath and be like, I'm okay right now. And that's really all that matters in the moment. Two, your emotions don't define you. So that real understanding and acceptance of, well, if I'm feeling this sensation, don't be so quick to label it. People who score high in neuroticism are very quick to be like, oh, I'm anxious, or oh, I'm on the verge of a panic attack. Well, you just told yourself that story, and you just increased the likelihood of having a panic attack by like 5,000% because you just said that to yourself, you know? So really try to work on just paying attention to the sensations and just treating them as data. And that leads to the third one. Emotions are data, not directives. So all emotions are signposts. They may be valuable, but they're not always valuable. I don't, I love intuition, but there's some people who like rely on their intuition 24/7, and I'm like, no, cut. You don't have to do that. Like sometimes your intuition is wrong. Like sometimes, the things it's telling you about, like, oh, this feels wrong. I'm going to run. Not always is it a situation where you need to run. So just treat emotions as data, not directives. So those are the three truths, and now I will step back and see what Rosie can add to this, which I'm sure she will add great things.
I'm going to add to it. Let's take 2 breaths.
I didn't take a breath at all throughout that whole thing.
This is your opportunity. It's amazing how taking the breath and paying attention to it. I I recently got back into meditation again
Yes.
after I meditated every day for 10 years. And then 2 years ago, it dribbled away. I was like, my goal is to do it 10 years, and then I hit it and then I went away. So I just got back into it. And it's profound how
Yes.
uh, easy it is to downregulate the nervous system and feel the pulse settle. Like,
Yeah.
oh, it's so good. And I love hearing that it is possible to shift from being more neurotic to less. A few years ago, it was actually probably 5 years ago, for the first time in my life, I realized I had anxiety, that I was anxious.
Mm.
And it wasn't that anything had happened, it was that my consciousness had grown. I was like, oh, this is called anxiety. And it's such a I always say that the essence of flourishing is at its root about the growth of consciousness.
Mm.
And to truly flourish requires, it goes back to know thyself. And so learning like what is going to help me in my personality and my uniqueness, um, lower my anxiety. And so that truly is, that's why flourishing is a practice. It's because it's really about learning what are the practices that are for right for you and um, your mind and your body.
Yes. Yes.
We're going to take a question from Jillian, and then we're going to go to Jennifer. So Jillian sent me this question ahead of time. She couldn't be here today. Jillian is a FLORIS member. She said, how do you deal with disappointment and emotions that can be consuming? And my question onto that is, what are proven ways to move beyond disappointment and consuming emotions?
Is that a question for SBK?
Yeah, you take it. And then I'll come
Oh,
in.
okay. Yeah.
I like hearing the science side, and then I can give the practical side.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to throw you a little curveball and do some practical stuff right now. With practical stuff which are scientifically validated. So one is creating a distance from your uncomfortable emotion and trying your best to, or thought, maybe it's an overwhelming thought, not just an emotion. You want to isolate your thought. So if you're feeling something that feels uncomfortable, and just acknowledge, by the way, that it's just uncomfortable. First of all, the field of positive psychology uses the phrase positive emotions and negative emotions, and I always criticize that because I don't like classifying things into objectively one of those two categories. They're either uncomfortable emotions or you can have comfortable emotions. You can have exhilarating emotions too. That exists. So, but positive and negative, I think, is too coarse. Um,
Mm,
so yeah, just say like, okay, let's say I'm feeling uncomfortable. Okay, I'm accepting that I feel uncomfortable, and then try create distance from it. Try to say it out loud that you're uncomfortable, and then experiment how you say it. Research shows that you can diffuse. Diffusion is one of the biggest ways of doing this. Is diffusing your thoughts so you can tone down your reactivity and interact with them more productively by observing them and saying, I'm uncomfortable, and then changing the way you say it. Be like, I'm uncomfortable, and then sing it. I'm uncomfortable, right? And so then you sing it, and then you like, then you do, whatever. But the point is, once you start playing around with it, you're getting it out of your head. You're getting it out of your identity. You're getting it out of your one-to-one mapping with your existence. And dare I say, you're allowed to be playful with your uncomfortable emotions. You don't have to be stuck in that mode. So that's one thing. Another thing is to make it rain. Now, what I mean by that is Tara Brach's wonderful rain approach, that you recognize the emotion, you allow it to come through, you get curious, lean into the investigation of it as much as possible. And then show some self-compassion, or the N is for nurturing, you know, and be like, okay, well, you're changing your relationship to it. The third thing that's practical and also science-based is the handshake practice. I really like where you make friends, or at least you handshake your beautiful monsters. This is a practice by the Tibetan Buddhist Tsoknyi Rinpoche. where you meditate and you welcome in your beautiful monsters, and you recognize that every feeling is priceless. You relax with them. And what happens is usually something magical and unexpected happens when you stop trying to fix yourself or make your beautiful monsters go away. You've realized that the raw emotions, the stuckness, the numbness are not as scary as they seem. And this is a really nice practice so we can stop being so scared of ourselves. You know, we really confront our beautiful monsters with tenderness. And you maybe want to set boundaries with some of your beautiful monsters. Maybe, you only let them come play on Dark Side Sundays, for instance. But, I have Dark Side Sundays. So, but, not all, you don't want it all the time, right? Context matters, right? So, like you say, okay, I see you. I know what you want, but it's okay. It's okay. I'll let you come out play sometimes, but like I'm gonna set some boundaries around you. All right. And then also broaden your tolerance. So that's a practice from Dan Siegel, which I love. And you just want to keep widening your window of tolerance by not avoiding the things that you're scared of, but gently starting to expose yourself to them more and more and start to widen what you're capable of. I'm a big fan of doing that. I'm not a big fan of coddling people and just having people be encouraged to constantly avoid what they're scared of. I actually think that all the research suggests from the ACT approach that experiential avoidance is one of the primary predictors of all sorts of mental illnesses. And then finally, I love Susan David's research on experiencing bothness. You're allowed to feel conflicting feelings simultaneously and recognize that neither is good or bad, that they simply are. And you want to expand your capacity as well to feel multiple emotional experiences at once because it's a really beautiful aspect of the complexity of being human. You're allowed to be excited about something and nervous, and neither needs to dominate your narrative. You don't have to be like, oh, I'm excited, but why am I nervous? No, no. Play yes and with that, like an improv way. Be like, I'm excited and nervous because I'm excited. Like it's all good. It's all good to feel the full richness of human experience. You don't have to reduce yourself to a single identity of an emotion or even a single emotion that you need to like harp on or focus on as more dominant than any of the others. So yeah, so those are some science-backed techniques.
I love how playful, the playful spirit that you bring to this.
Thanks,
Uh,
Rosie.
the singing it, so name it.
Was it too loud? This microphone
It
here.
actually, it actually was okay.
Okay.
Um, so name the uncomfortable feeling, say it differently, like speak it differently, and then sing it quite operatically.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah. Why not?
Why not?
Why not? Yes.
Do you have any, in any of your books, did you talk about beautiful monsters? Is that
Hmm.
from which
That's
book
from
is that?
Rise Above. That's in Rise Above.
Okay, great. Thank you. Let's see, we're getting a good list of questions here. We're going to take one from Jay. So Haley, let's make sure Jay is off of mute, and then we'll go to Courtney after that. Jay, when you're ready, come on in.
Hi, do I need to have my video on as well?
No, it's okay.
Okay, yeah. The question that I had asked, I'm sorry, I didn't know that I was going to be speaking, so I kind of already forgot my question.
I have it here. I can read it for you, and then you and Scott can have a little chat. Does that sound good?
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you.
The question
Wow.
is, how do I allow myself to flourish when I have done something in my past that I hold so much shame and guilt from?
Wow. I just got to chill. Well, look, that's really relatable. And there's a cognitive bias that I think a lot of people fall prey to. It's so deeply human, and that's the I'll be happy when dot 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 one. And I think that part of that cognitive bias and what you confront if you kind of go through CBT there, and I'm a big fan of mindful CBT, which is like the next evolution of CBT. Seth Gillihan is my friend and like a leader of that, so I definitely recommend looking up his stuff. I like giving credit where it's due. And so with mindful hold on a second. Wait, what was the question? Shoot. I just
Um,
help me refocus.
how do I allow myself to flourish when I've done something in my past
Yes.
that I
Yes.
hold so much shame and guilt from?
Yeah, I'm the happy when. And and part of that is I'll be happy when I get rid of all my shame. I think that's part of that's one cognitive bias. And or I'll be happy, like and the fact remains that you don't need to wait to be happy. Um and you're allowed to uh for one transform the shame into guilt. Guilt is much more helpful because it's not so personal, and the guilt is more action oriented. So first of all, ask yourself, what can I do in this moment? Is there anything? Think of it like a decision tree. Sheldon from Big Bang Theory would really appreciate this. Anyone catch that reference? Okay, what flow chart? What is there anything I can do in this moment to reach out to someone? I was holding on to something for a very long time with my college girlfriend. I thought I was an asshole. And I like held on to that for like 20 years, like 15 years. And I decided to finally just message her on Facebook. Guys, this is totally TMI. I recognize that, but whatevs. And I messaged her on Facebook and I said, we haven't talked in like 15 years, but I just wanted to say I hope you're doing well. And if I was an asshole at all, let me know. Not let me know, but like I'm sorry. And I kind of needed that to move on. I was young and experienced. I didn't know how to handle relationships. I didn't like the idea of being, like in a commitment, et cetera, whatever. I was young. And anyway, she responded like, "Oh, hey Scott, nice to hear from you. Like, you know what? Like, don't even worry about it. We were all young and stupid then." But it was such a like a relief, but it also made me realize, wow, I've been holding on to that for 15, like that's crazy, how long I've been holding on to that. So my point here is don't wait 15 years. Like if there's a productive action you can take, even if it's apologizing to someone, and you just do it today. Do it, get it done, move, and then move on, So convert shame to guilt. And guilt is action oriented, and guilt is, productive. And also, so in the flow chart, if there isn't anything you can do anymore, if there's literally nothing and you're still holding on to shame, really work on leaning into the things in your life that make you happy and recognize it's a cognitive bias that can only be happy when dot dot dot, because that really is a bias. And it's a bias you can really work on day in and day out. So those are my little examples.
I have a couple of things to add to that. And like you said, when you started your response, Scott, that Jay, your question is so relatable. And I learned for me, I learned a groundbreaking acronym. It was groundbreaking for me. So SHAME, the acronym of should have already mastered everything. I should have already mastered everything.
Nice.
And if I don't do something perfectly in the past, if I have not done something perfectly, or it doesn't earn in the first 1 second a standing ovation, no matter what the task is, no matter what the action is, if I don't get like great response, it's almost crippling. And so I say that to myself. I said, should have already mastered everything. And now I can have a sense of humor about how seriously I take my actions and things that I mess up on. And part of that perfectionism was overcompensating for something that I did when I was 9 years old.
Mm.
And I let decades go by before I made an amends.
There you go.
Decades. And those decades ate at me. I'm a bad person because I did XYZ.
Nailed it. Nailed it.
And so just a few months ago, I reached out to that person whom I hadn't spoken to in 26 years. And I told her what I did when we were 9 years old. And it was great. And we're friends again after decades. Like the healing was so easy, but it took so much work to get there. And the work was the willingness to let go of the fear of actually being seen. So thanks for that question, Jay. Next, we're going to go to Courtney.
I've been unmuted.
Hello.
Hey, hi everyone, and hi Scott. I'm a longtime fan of yours. Listen to some podcasts and Waking Up app, all that stuff.
Amazing.
I am gonna ask this question and preface it with saying I'm thinking about this a lot and have some of my own ideas, but really like want to hear both you and Rosie's input. I know Rosie knows this. I quit my job at TikTok in January. And so top of mind is how do we reclaim our attention and really find our own center when we're in a system that's designed to distract us and pull us away from that. And I really feel this tension right now. I'm also a meditation teacher and trying to bring this into my work with people as well.
Wow.
Big question.
It's a kind of a funny question, not funny, but coincidental, because I was recently thinking of spending a year off email and hiring someone to respond compassionately to everyone, but be like, yeah, Scott's done. He's done.
That sounds
For
great.
at least a year. He's
I
like he's I'm gonna like put everything collated, and and I'll check in every couple weeks and see which things I want to follow up on. But you can still be productive in the world without being a slave to email or TikTok. And that's the point I want to make. It's not that I'm saying I'm not going to acknowledge or respond to people, but I'm going to do it on my own terms. And I'm going to manage my own attention more. So I really was thinking about doing a year experiment about that, where I just once a week do a check-in or maybe every 2 weeks and see what needs to be done or what I want to do. But you really want to, the thing with mindfulness is, Courtney, and I see you went to University of Cambridge. So did I. I wonder if we were there at the same time. What college were you at?
I was in two. I was in Darwin and then I was in Keys. Yeah.
So, so cool.
Which
Yeah,
college were you?
I was in Kings. I was in Kings, but I spent time at both those colleges that you're at, and they're wonderful, beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Yeah, and I think that since you're really getting into mindfulness more, and you're a practitioner, the whole point there is to create more of this space between the stimulus and the response, and create more of the space in between. And I think that there are a lot of things that you can do. I also recommend Cal Newport, who talks a lot about things you can do to really create more of that space in terms of the online world. I think we can be more intentional. We could all be more intentional about creating very designated times that we check these things, or if we are like going Instagram, we give a specific scheduled time that we're going to check in, but that we know we're not checking in during those other times. And if anyone wants to join me on this email experiment for a full year, maybe I can create a community of people who just want their freedom back. Because I feel that pull every time I open my inbox. I have like 100 emails of being like, "Oh, will you advise my dissertation? Oh, will you?" All of this for free, by the way. Everyone, no one ever wants to be like, "Hey, I'll pay you to write my whole dissertation for me." It's always like, "Hey, will you just write my dissertation for me?" I'm like, "Oh my God, what the heck?" But getting just so many requests, and I feel that pull to just be everyone, to do everything. And I think reclaiming our freedom is so important through mindfulness and intentionality. It's possible, though. I think
Yeah.
I want to hold out hope it is.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I'll join the experiment. I'm in.
Yes.
Amazing.
I like it.
I'm going to respond as well, Courtney, and then LA, we're going to go to you next. So I actually wrote down a bunch of things about attention, and
Oh, cool.
yes, before this call, these were the specific things I wanted to share, because flourishing is very much about being present and being here. As I always say, it's human flourishing, present tense. It's not human flourished, and it's not human will flourish. It's very much about cultivating being in the now. And I recently heard about thinking about your mind as an algorithm.
Mm.
So if this, then this. So if I feed it this, then this is what's going to happen. If I watch a lot of advertisements, if I watch a lot of TV, if I doom scroll, then this is what's going to happen. It's quite predictable. And so what I do is I'm deliberate with my attention, and I specifically protect my attention from advertisements.
Mm.
Okay. And so how do I do that? So I look at ads when I want to. When the Super Bowl happened this year, I think that same day I found on YouTube a 30-minute video that was all the Super Bowl ads. And I watched them because I wanted to see them. So, but it was deliberate. I sat down very intentionally. So I watch the ads when I want to. And how do I protect my attention from ads? Okay, I'm going to give you a gem. If you don't already use it, look up Brave browser. Brave browser. Brave is a search browser that you can use to watch YouTube, and it will block all advertisements. It
Mm.
also blocks nearly all pop-ups on websites. So when I go to a website, I never see an ad. I use YouTube for free, and I haven't watched an advertisement in years.
Wow.
The other thing is I don't have a TV in my home, and I don't have TV playing in the background. Same thing with radio. Like if I want to listen to radio, it's very intentional. And I haven't had a TV since I was 13, which is really wild. It's a lie. We have one. It's from 1953, but it doesn't work. It's an antique. So that's one.
Of course you do.
Of course we do. Last two things are prayer and meditation. And so prayer is considered a way of speaking to one's higher power, whatever you want to call that. I think of the mystery of life with a capital M, and my shorthand word for the mystery is God. So when I want to communicate with that higher power, I pray, and then meditation gives me messages. And one of my favorite people to listen to, I don't often listen to guided meditation, but I love Alan Watts, who was a Zen meditation teacher in the 1950s and 60s. And so you can find some recordings online that people have put to music. And I find they're quite pleasant. He has a very soothing voice.
I love that. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Well,
thanks, Courtney.
love Alan Watts. Yeah.
Me too. Oh, so good. We want to say hi to
Lori.
Hi, Lori. It's good to see
Hi,
you.
Rosie.
Welcome.
How are you? Thank
I'm
you.
good.
Just to add to what you just said, I stopped watching all of these horrible shows with all these terrible people. I never saw Breaking Bad or Game of Thrones. I don't want these people in my living room. And I think that really takes away a lot of stress in my life. So my question, there's always an effort. We've lost the art of disagreeing respectfully, and it seems to be getting harder and harder, especially with family members. And as the situation we all find ourselves in, as more and more happens, it's like, where's your line, people? And it's harder and harder for me to communicate and to try to understand. Are there any tricks, tips, advice on how to communicate with people we don't agree with, or how to be kinder in our responses?
I have thoughts on that.
Oh man, I would love to hear your thoughts. I'm working on this at Columbia University amongst the students.
Aren't we all? So it said if you think that you're enlightened, spend a weekend with your family.
Yeah, so true.
Okay. I have learned. I had an amazing, astonishing, weird experience. Probably 8 years ago. That had me. I'm not going to tell the story in full depth. I went to the African American Museum of History and Culture in DC, which is an amazing museum. And I was one of very few people, low melanin, as I like to say, okay? And on that particular day. And I was hyper vigilant about making sure I didn't bump into anybody because I felt like I wasn't in, I felt like I was a guest. And every time I would bump into someone, I would like exceedingly be like, oh, excuse me. And I realized after that, I was like, would I have treated people like that? Would I have been like that in that space if more people in the room had similar skin to mine? And I said, no, I would have felt totally comfortable. And that was the day that I realized if I want a world in which people are treated equally, then I am going to treat everyone equally. And since then, that's what I do. I treat everyone equally, no matter if they're a jerk, no matter if they're mentally ill. I really that's my ideal, is to treat them equally, see them as a whole human. And when I see someone as a whole human, I also see them as someone who has experienced traumas and may have mental health issues and definitely has compulsions, because we all have compulsions. And so when I see a person arguing for something, I love thinking of Mel Robbins and her philosophy, which is let them. Let them be who they are. I can still treat them with dignity, even if they're a jerk. And I think part of what allows me to roll with the punches, if you will, and that doesn't mean that I don't get triggered and get angry at people, because that certainly happens. But when I'm being my best self, I am present to the fact that one day I'm going to die. And
No,
can you believe it?
not going to happen,
Can you believe it?
Rosie.
One day I'm going to die. And I have made peace with that. And so who do I want to be on this one precious day that I'm here today? And how do I want to treat people? And I think that going back to how we started this conversation today about neuroticism, like being in the future and being terrified about the future, or being in the past and angry about what happened in the past, the more that I can center myself and center my nervous system, the more I find I'm able to access talking with people when they're being jerks, and I'm able to decrease how much I'm a jerk toward them.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I still, again, I try to be kind, try not to argue, certainly don't want to, but I think we tend to just not speak about things that there, somebody I saw wrote in boundaries. And I get that. And I think that's kind of the rule with families. There are boundaries, and we all know that you are over here and I'm over here, but it still hurts that we can't talk about it. And to be honest, I'm looking at them thinking, you're an idiot. And I don't want to feel that way about somebody that I love, but I'm just being honest. I'm listening to you. And it's like, how do we share blood? And how are you still so blinded by what's happening? So I think I'm just looking for some help to be kinder, more understanding.
I think that, Scott, did you already?
I'm here.
Okay, great. Do you need to?
Do I need what?
You need to step away? I got a message from you.
No.
No, you're good?
No.
Okay, great. Oh, that was an old message. Disregard, folks. Do you want to answer that?
I'm really sitting with it
Yeah.
because LA is sitting with it. And so I want to sit with it with her.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that there's an obvious solution, because I don't think kindness is always the answer. And I'm sorry if that's controversial, but I wrote a whole paper on a topic called healthy selfishness, and its contrast with pathological altruism. And I actually created a scale, a scientifically validated scale, which you can take at selfactualizationtest.com for free, and it'll tell you where you are in both of those traits. But I think sometimes being we're told in our society so often to, be kind, be kind, be kind, and it's exhausting sometimes because sometimes it can override your own healthy selfishness. And toxic selfishness is different than healthy selfishness, and which I distinguish in that paper as well. So toxic selfishness is narcissism or like psychopathy, dark triad traits. But we found that healthy selfishness was negatively correlated with dark triad traits. I mean, it had items such as like I know how to set proper boundaries. I have a healthy form of assertiveness where I tell people what is okay and what's not okay. I take time to myself to meditate. I have no problem enjoying things if even if it isn't helping everyone else. Like I don't know. I have my own pet peeve about being constantly told you have to be kind 24/7, and I'm not like down with that. Like my answer to LA and I'm not quite sure. What's your name,
It's
Ellen?
Lori. Thank you. Lori.
Oh, hi, Lori. My response to Lori wasn't to immediately jump in and teach her how to be more kind, because I think we're all taught that. We get it. But I think for a lot of people who've had parents who jump all over their boundaries their whole childhood, to them, an act of healthy selfishness is an act of aggression, and I want to challenge that. I want to challenge that for these people, and let them know that having a healthy assertion of your needs and telling people what is okay and having self-respect and having self-esteem are not things that they are important things to have, and they're equally as important as being kind,
Mm.
if not more important, actually. So
Yeah.
you
I think
got it.
that was really kind of that sweet spot that you just get exhausted and that we're the ones that always seem to have to be the thoughtful ones. And
Yeah,
I'm
right, right,
exhausted
right.
by that as well, and
That's right.
so it's just,
There are
yeah,
toxic people on this planet.
yeah, yes, there are.
They exist.
Thank you. Yes, I
Yeah.
get it.
Lori, I would add to that. I often ask myself, like when I get upset with someone, what is it that I'm eating in myself,
Correct.
trying to get met with this person? And also, since it sounds like it's a family member that you're thinking of, it there's grief there,
Mm.
like having
Wow.
a blood family member who you can't
Yeah.
connect with anymore because of political views and communication is broken down. That's hard.
Yeah, thanks.
Wow.
I'm sure there's a lot of us on this call that have that. So
It's so relatable.
yeah,
Like every and that's the deal with flourishing. It's not that everything's great all the time. I'm happy all the time. I'm kind all the
Exactly.
time. It's like today I have the blues. Today I don't know if I'm going to make it. And yeah, like so it's so relatable, and grieving is I said this to someone the other day. I said the more I live, the more I realize how much life is about grieving,
Wow.
because we
There's a
all
book there. There's a book there, Rosie.
You want to write it with me, Scott?
Let's go.
I hear you're not taking on any projects.
That's-
for a year.
I think it's a great book idea. Like a
So
different, yeah.
yeah, it like no matter who you are, you experience loss. Okay. And things
Hmm.
come and they go, people come and they go, your life comes and it goes. And so learning to grieve in a healthy way, that is what coping is learning to deal with the things that are just uncomfortable. Compulsion, as I understand it, as I relate to it, having compulsions, and I believe we all have compulsions to deal with the difficulty of life. Having a compulsion is doing a behavior again and again, even though I know that it hurts me.
Hmm.
And so learning to grieve whatever's there, fear of success, fear of being seen, fear of loss, fear of being found out, grieving that is healthy and supports flourishing. We're going to go to, thanks, Lori. We're going to go to a couple other questions. We're going to go to Carrie, and that's Carrie, Kari.
Yeah, hello.
Hi, Carrie.
Hey, so as a self-declared introvert, I would like to know, from your viewpoint, what kind of role does the improv games play in human flourishing?
So you call yourself an improv-vert.
Introvert, yes.
Yes. So you do a lot of improv.
Yes,
Okay.
I do.
And so you're asking what kind of role do improv games play in human flourishing? Scott, I would love to hear your answer to this.
Oh, love that question. I'm a big fan of improv, and I don't know if you've heard of Second City Improv, but I co-hosted their podcast recently, so you can watch those episodes. The podcast is called "This Might Get Awkward." It was super fun. And I think that like improv is a good metaphor for life, about yes ending everything. You're accepting what is and the real validation of who you are, the research shows that introverts are much happier if they accept that they're introverts and that there's nothing wrong with it. I've written a lot about that. So yeah, definitely I can send you papers on that. And the empowerment part is the yes, I accept, and I'm I got this. So like the yes ending, let's say you're a concrete example, you're really nervous to go to an upcoming job interview. You could be like, I am anxious and, I know that I can rock interviews. I've done it before, right? I have the resources within me. So I call it my approach in Rise Above, I call it honest love. And that's validation plus empowerment. And I distinguish it from the two other extremes, which I see everywhere in our culture. Either the coddling approach, which you see on Instagram pages, people like making money to tell others, like, it's okay if you have trauma, you don't have to do anything in your life, you can stay in bed, just like read my book, and like that kind of extreme of coddling. And then there's the other extreme, of the pick yourself up by your bootstraps folks who are like, context doesn't matter, support doesn't matter, just stop, complaining, sissy boy, right? And like neither of those two extremes really resonated with me. So I think an improv approach is a really nice middle way. And I'm all about the middle way, like I'm such a Buddhist in that sense. You know what I'm saying, Rosie?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
you. We're going to go to Jennifer.
Is that helpful, Carrie? I wanted to make sure that it addressed you. Okay, well, I got
Thank
a
you.
heart. I got a heart.
You got.
Nice.
But Jennifer's question is, because we're running out of time here, what was the turning point, Scott, what was the turning point in your life that pushed you into pursuing your purpose?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry.
Hello. Oh, it's Jennifer Share, fellow
Hi.
FLORIS member. It's good to
Hi,
see you
hi,
there in
hi.
outer space.
So, Scott, this kind of correlates to one of the books that you wrote, Ungifted. It was a
Yeah,
really fascinating book, by the way. And if anybody wants to read it, you can read about,
it's my baby.
really,
It's my
yeah,
baby.
really just it's so fascinating to hear about like your transformation during that book and really how we put labels onto society and how those labels have really kind of detrimented us to pursue our purpose and our real value in life. So highly recommend to anybody. Don't want to give away anything, but kind of correlates to my question. I mean, how do you do in your life? I mean, I know it's a loaded question, but maybe in a moment of your life that really kind of shifted you into doing what you are doing right now.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it happened in ninth grade, when I was in special education for an auditory disability, and I was kept in special ed from third grade till ninth grade, and there was a teacher who took me aside after a class in ninth grade. It was the start of high school, and this teacher did not have all the labels that they were supposed to see me through, all the filters, so they just saw me as I was, which was nice to kind of start afresh and new. And I was taking this untimed test, and she's like, "Why aren't you taking the history test?" And I said, "Well, if it's untimed, I have the rest of my life to finish it, so chill." And she found that hilarious, and she took me aside after class, and she's like, like I was wondering why you still here, and it like really that one single question, we call it in coaching a powerful coaching question. I lead like a coaching self-actualization coach. I create a form of coaching called self-actualization coaching where we work on how can we come up with powerful questions. Talk about a powerful question. Having me change the narrative that has been told to me for, like that I'm even allowed to step out of that door. I don't need learned helplessness anymore. Like that changed my life. And it went quickly in my head from why am I here to like, yeah, why am I here? And I was like, I don't want to be here. And I want to challenge myself and I want to grow. And so, yeah, I like told the whole administration, everyone, I was like, I want to get out and see what I'm capable of. And I don't care if I fail everything, like I would rather know what I'm capable of and fail everything than continue on this track the rest of my life, which was not even supposed to graduate high school. So that changed my life. And then senior year, there was another moment with a school psychologist who he wouldn't let me in a gifted education because he said my IQ at age 11 was too low. And I was like, but I'm 17 now. And like, why are we talking about my past, and in that moment, I really did decide, I wanted to change the standard metrics of potential. And I did apply to Carnegie Mellon with a personal statement on why I wanted to change the standard metrics of potential, and they rejected me. The psychology department was like, "Good story, bro, but your SAT scores aren't high enough to redefine the standard metrics of potential," which is really ironic. So anyway, long story short, I went through the back door into opera and then transferred in to psychology once I was there, and the rest is history. But
What?
I was an opera major. Yeah,
That's incredible.
yeah.
Wow, what a life. Jennifer, thank you.
It ain't over yet, Rosie.
It ain't
No.
It ain't over yet.
Not even to the halfway point. Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Jennifer.
Thank you, guys.
So we have
Good
5
question.
minutes left. We're gonna wrap up and end right at 2. Scott has to jump off right at 2. Let's see. I want to plug 3 things. So you can find Scott's website. I put that in the chat. It is scottbarrykaufman.com. And then his psychological magic website, I told you he is a real magician, he's a mentalist, is theamazingdrscott.show. And if you're interested in learning about FLORIS, which is our membership community for people who are into flourishing, you can click that link, vonlila.com/join FLORIS. We're going to take one question from Vegard, who is sending his question in from Norway. Vegard, are you there off of mute?
Oh, yes, I am. Oh,
Hello.
sorry.
Welcome. Come on in.
Hello. It's so really good to see you, SBK.
Okay, I want to see you too, but wait, I
Yeah,
have to
you'll see me
scroll. I have
now.
to scroll. Now, who's speaking? Who's speaking?
He's
What's your
a-
name?
I am speaking. Hello.
There we are.
Ah,
Yeah.
there you are.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
now I see you. Good.
Yeah, this is amazing, Scott. I followed you for many, many years, and I've been
Really?
planning, been planning to write to you.
Tell my mother.
Yeah, but now I can't write to you, so I have to say what I have to say, I think, right now. So, briefly, I was a peace builder in the North Caucasus, facilitating dialogues between Russians and Chechens until Putin didn't allow us to do that anymore. So now what I'm about is to do peace building in the West, you could say, and now more in the corporate world, in organizations. So what I've been doing for the last year or so is that I've been very inspired by your sailboat metaphor. And now Maslow is so relevant again after the work you've done. So I'm developing a new presentation now based on your work and other people's work for organizations and leaders. So my question then for you is, how do you see the science of flourishing? How can the science of flourishing, and in particular the science of self-actualization that you have developed, contribute to organizations and leaders?
Yeah,
For people,
well, I love the question, and it is one really top of my mind because I created this form of my quick answer, my concise answer is through coaching. I think it's the future, and I think that I created this whole program of self-actualization coaching is a 6-month program that people go through, and we train them, and then they have a practicum where it's kind of like a Robin Hood model a little bit, like they get these nonprofit leaders get free coaching from our coaches as part of the practicum. But I think that the essence of coaching is, and this is something that I believe in the increasing age of AI, it cannot replace humans. The human touch is fundamentally believing in the growth potential of another human, and not in some fake ass AI way. Sorry, Siri, but I mean in a really authentic human connection way, where you at base, in my dream world, every human would have one person on this planet who like believes in their higher potential. And so that's my concise answer, and I'm working on like how to build that up large scale. But I'm starting with it like nonprofit leadership right now. Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also appreciating neurodiversity.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Scott. So
Thank you.
thanks for your time.
Thank you. And thank you to everyone for being here today. It's been an absolute pleasure. Scott, thanks for doing this. Scott, do you have any closing words before you sign off?
Oh gosh, well, hope we can do this again. This was a lot of fun, and yeah, and everyone join her group, join Rosie's group. She put a link in there. Rosie's doing really great stuff, and thank you for including me. Really appreciative, really gratitude.
It's a delight. I want to do your coaching program. I'm gonna
done. All right, everyone, have a good day.
Thanks, Scott.
Bye.
Take care. All right, let's see. So I'm happy to stay on for a couple extra minutes. We have a few other questions. If these folks are still here, we're happy to talk about them. David has a question about, I think this question is pretty interesting. Haley, can we get David Munir Nabti off of mute?
Hello, greetings, everyone.
Good to see you. So let's see, you posted about democracy and flourishing in democracy. And you have the Democracy Unconference, fantastic. Did you post about that on Denizen? Did I see that?
Yes.
Yes, I saw that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Thank you for doing that. It's wonderful. And your question,
I thought it was a beautiful conversation, and thanks, Rosie, and thanks all. And this aspect of how can we center flourishing and democracy, like they're so beautifully related in my mind, and yet there's such a huge disconnect between them in terms of how we normally think about how we live together. And yeah, I mean, I'm obviously playing around with this and open for ideas and suggestions. But I think if we can bring these ideas together of flourishing and democracy, it could help us address so many challenges. That idea of coaching, I thought was like, oh my God, could we actually offer coaching for all of our elected officials and candidates?
a few thoughts on it. So having a flourishing democracy is quite dependent on having human beings who are practicing flourishing. And going back to that conversation, what we were talking about, having boundaries, part of leadership is being someone who has a spine and who can stand up when people are, when they're doing things that are not, how do I say this? It's so context dependent. What I want to say is being able to stand up for being treated with respect is important. And being able to communicate that in a way that is constructive is important. And we only minimally touched on, Scott mentioned about personality disorders and things like narcissism and psychopathy. Like those are real issues. And the fact that people with those kinds of personality effects, dare I say, those kinds of personality traits, they rise to the top, for better or worse. And I think that it has a lot to do with most of us not being able to exert healthy boundaries. And so in FLORIS, for example, we have, I will dig this up. I very intentionally wrote this. So I have a lot of experience in communities and community leadership. So what happens in communities is there will be someone who has a manipulative personality or works in ways that are actually not healthy for the group. And that person will rise because nobody else says anything. People want to be polite. And so what we've created in FLORIS is called the no schmucks policy. It's also the no schmucks culture. I insist on having a sense of humor. Other organizations would call this a code of conduct. Okay, but we say no schmucks behaviors. And like schmucky behavior, I don't say it in this, but what I'm describing are narcissistic behaviors and psychopathic behaviors. They're behaviors where it's all about being on the take. And I think that it's important to not vilify people with these kinds of mental health disorders because they're people with mental health disorders. Again, viewing someone as a whole person, recognizing their beauty and also their compulsions and also their traumas. But we can have a spine and say, this behavior that you're doing doesn't work for this community.
This will not stand, this aggression will not stand, man.
And when we create strong communities, we can then create stronger local governance, and then you can build that in larger cycles. In terms of solving America's political issues and saving our democracy, I don't have a solution to that, but I do know that we're on the path when more people work on their flourishing. Like that's it, full stop. Did I lose you, David? Where'd you go?
No, I'm here.
Oh, there you are.
I'm listening and also wondering if Kari has something related to this, but I think it's a really beautiful point and an important. How do we broaden some of this? Like part of my thinking has been like so much of the response related to the current political situation, that there's like this opposition, that there's this polarization. But then actually, if you look at a lot of the data, there's a lot more shared unity and shared agreement in this country than we think.
Yeah.
And that there is what we see is the financial incentives of the political parties, the social media companies, and the news outlets to show us as being hyperpolarized.
Yep.
And then they elevate that, whereas actually we're not. And even those people at the extremes, like you're saying, is they shouldn't be vilified. They also are trying to figure out ways to care for their family and deal with whatever they're going through.
Yep.
But how can we not be consumed by them?
That's right. That's right. So to that point, I call flourishing the great unifier. Every human being wants to flourish. That is something that we can connect on. How we go about it is different. But when you work on your own flourishing, and flourishing isn't about self-help. A huge part of flourishing is about your relationships and your contribution to the world. And so this is not about navel gazing. It's about developing your character so that you can be someone who can communicate better. A beautiful, I meet people who it's so clear that they have a deep practice and they're doing global scale work. I'm like, wow, this person is an amazing leader. I think that it's really important to see each other as humans and work on your flourishing, become strong in your character, be able to communicate your boundaries in a healthy way, be able to reduce your compulsions and the things that hurt you, and live a life of service held in that context. And thanks for staying into overtime. I'm Rosie von Lila, and we'll see you soon. Be well.